Hello, good afternoon, good evening. This is Viper AS for ViperLand, and I'm actually doing this little bit beforehand, even though I can't move or do anything. This is just going to be a brief description of what this event is. In case anyone's tuning in early, they don't really know what this is, that's what I'm going to be showing here, or telling at least. So the Descent races are a new event in Path of Exile, this game right here that you're watching. Hey, look. So they break them down into seasons. This is the first race of the third season in Path of Exile, and races are events where you make a character, you try and get as high level as you can in a certain amount of time. That time depends on what type of event you're doing. This one is a 1 hour Descent race. The Descent thing is what changes stuff. This is their first time really changing the formula of the game. Beforehand they would do stuff like mobs would move quicker, they'd do stuff where you could have a party or you couldn't have a party, or where PvP was allowed and sometimes you'd spot other people and you could kill them. This is something very new, because always before you'd play through the game start to finish, however far you could get, in whatever time. In this, they change things around. You go through basically a maze, I guess, is what it seems to be, or a connection of rooms, a dungeon, however you want to call it, and there's no backtracking, so there's no farming safe areas for mobs, for loot, for experience, which was the norm in the old races. There's no carrying these, you don't carry these characters over to your regular character slots when it's done, which used to always be the norm. You'd finish a race, that character would be a normal character after that, so anything you'd get during the event you'd get to keep. That's not the case now, but because of that they can give out different items and change the drop rates of items to make it more interesting for that 1 hour that you're playing. Since they don't need to worry about all these high-end items making it into normal game economy, they can just go, well, whatever, these can drop because it'll be more fun and more interesting. However, this is supposed to be very challenging, so I can't even guarantee I'm going to make it. Nobody really knows exactly what's in store, other than the brief preview they've given us on their forums. A few announcements, a few bullet points of what's generally in store for us, but since this is the very first one ever being run, nobody knows for sure. So, I'm playing a Marauder because I'm going to go the defensive route. That tends to be how I start out. I'm probably not going to win this race. I'm not that good of a player. I enjoy the game, and I enjoy these races for what they are, a challenge to see how far you can get and try and best your previous score. But since I'm literally going into this blind, hey, league is starting in 5 minutes, I'm going to try and be a little more defensive. Apparently throughout, once you clear a room, there's going to be different chests, which will have different items in it, but you're only going to be able to open one. The only example they gave in their preview was maybe one would have a better health flask, but maybe one would have a Quicksilver flask, which lets you run faster. Since it is a race, the professional player may go for the Quicksilver. I'd be going for the health if that landed in my lap right now. So it's going to be, I'm going to be picking the more defensive choices. If you want to see somebody charge ahead and do really great, this is probably not going to be that stream. And this little intro bit is going to be a separate, I'm not going to call it an episode, this is just going to be a prelude. I'll upload it tomorrow as well, 2 regular episodes. So tomorrow, the first, I'm going to say 15 minutes, but I don't know, of the event are going to be uploaded on YouTube, as well as this thing, me talking right here, is a separate episode, just in case people want more of a background on what's about to happen. There will be no parties allowed in this, it's all a solo thing. They're trying to more emulate a single-player RPG experience in a multiplayer setting. I've turned off global chat because it's horribly spammy and quite often offensive before these events, and during the events, the only people who talk are people who died, which can be interesting to see how people died, but it's distracting and I just don't want to put up with it. So yeah, I've got my little pet, I've got my Marauder in there, presumably is some gear, because, oop, wrong button. I got nothing. You got your usual starting stuff. All I've done is log in, I've stood up, I've made my little pet come out, because I love my little pet. and I'm ready, hopefully, for whatever the game's gonna throw at me. I originally made a shadow character just to try something new, but I have next to no experience with shadows, so I decided to play something I know better. I despise the mana problems that Marauders have early on until you get to Blood Magic, but who knows, maybe it's going to level quick enough that you get to that. It's only an hour, but nothing is really known about this. Oh, not nothing, but very little. I have no idea what types of creatures I'm going to come against. They've mentioned that bosses from throughout Path of Exile, all the acts and chapters and whatnot, are going to be strewn about whatever dungeon I go to. Also, it is hardcore. If I die, which is entirely possible if not likely, if I die on this character, I'm going to make another, because I want to keep going as far as I can in that hour. Depending on how far you get, you may be awarded prizes at the end. I know they give out uniques and possibly currency items and whatnot to top players, but they also give out points, and if you go to pathofexile.com, which I guess I could do, I have 2 minutes, but whatever. You know what, actually, I'm going to. If you go to pathofexile.com, yeah, that's my streaming software, making a nice, come on. Don't care about mail, I care about pathofexile.com. And you go to events, you can see these are what you can win for getting different point values. I was averaging about 3 points per event. If I do really well, I'll do better, I'll get more, and if I don't, then, well, I won't. Anybody watching? No, nobody's watching live. So yeah, sorry for the brief distraction, but that's where you go to check out. Also, that's the schedule for all the events. Some of the events are really weird times because the game is actually made entirely in New Zealand. So they go by their time, they just schedule stuff, some of them by our time. I say our because I'm East Coast United States, which is a fairly popular time zone, but they try and schedule them around the world. So there's 1 minute left. I'm gonna stop talking shortly. Hopefully, if people were curious about what this event was going to be, this little preview helped. And hopefully this event's going to go well. I'm probably not going to be talking quite as much as I normally do, because I'm actually going to be focusing on what I'm doing. A really weird thought, I'm sure. So hopefully people can sit back and enjoy, and maybe I'll do well. I don't know. I have no idea what's in store for me. Just bare bones, basics idea of what I'm even going to be encountering. Alright, 10 seconds. And